Chris Matthews had on Republican Congressman Steve Perry, and they got into an epic shouting match. Now, it's a little bit long. I chopped it down as much as I could with keeping all the relevant information in there. But it's still a little bit long. But nonetheless, look at how Chris Matthews, who, by the way, is a guy that I'm always split on, because sometimes he does a fantastic job in certain segments, and other times he's just flat out defending the Democrats when there's no reason to defend the Democrats. But look at how, in this segment, he absolutely dismantles and destroys this shouting idiot.
You said it happens all the time. You said at previous debates and fights over the debt ceiling. Fair enough. Has there ever been a time where Congress held up the President of the United States and said, kill a law of the land as the deal to continue holding the government open? Has it ever happened? Just say it's never happened before and we're done.
I don't know if it's ever happened before, but I can tell you this, Chris. Hold on, I can tell you this. The 18th Amendment to the Constitution was prohibition, which was repealed by the 21st Amendment. It was the law of the land, and it was repealed. Slavery was legal at some point, Chris. Do you think that should still be legal today? Is that what you're saying?
Let me explain that. Well, you know the history, of course. A prohibition was passed after World War I, and then, of course, it was repealed under the Democratic administration of Franklin Roosevelt a decade and a half later. So, yes, it was repealed after it was tried, and it failed, certainly.
Right, and that's what's happening now.
Has the
this is being tried, and it's failing. It's failing.
When does it go into effect? October 1st. It goes into effect next Tuesday.
Well, let me ask you this: when it goes into effect, what parts? Hold on a second, Chris. What parts of prohibition were repealed or held up or delayed by the administration before they ever happened? Isn't it about 20 places that Obamacare has been held up by the administration because they're not ready to go? How many is that? Where's the precedent for that? Yeah, but we're going to roll on anyhow.
The Volstead Act actually
we're going to force this on the American people, knowing that it's not right.
Let me explain how it works. The Congress of the United States voted by a majority in the House of Representatives, and the Senate voted by a 60 vote supermajority.
Not bipartisan. It was all one party. Let's remind everybody of that.
Wait a minute. Everything you're doing is by one party.
This is the left wing.
Wait a minute.
This is the ultra-left wing of the Democrat Party having absolutely every bit of their way. This is not bipartisan. This is saying for 50% of the country, we're not interested in what you have to offer.
The U.S. Congressman, the reason why your body of Congress has got about an 8% approval rating right now, 8%, is because people know that every dollar spent by the U.S. government has been approved by the U.S. House of Representatives. And the spending has initiated there. It didn't come from the Senate, didn't come from the White House. The spending bills of the United States Congress all come from the House of Representatives, which you're a member of. That's what the public understands. This attempt not to pay the debts once the money's been spent, they get the joke there, too. And that's showing up in the polls. The people are smarter than you think they are. They know that you guys spent the money but won't pay the bills. They know that.
Come on, do you believe that? Do they think that the president had nothing to do with this? Do you know that the exchanges are going to cost an additional $353 million that was never part of this? Everybody's health care cost is going up. That's a promise the president made that's not happening.
Let me ask you a couple of questions.
This is driving the debt, and they want something done about it, and they don't want the president to walk away from it.
Let me suggest something, too. You've got now a minute. I want you to admit how you're going to prevent the government from shutting down next Tuesday, and then how you're going to prevent the government from defaulting on its debt.
What we're going to do is we're going to bring a plan that's reasonable, that the American people are asking for, that they stand behind to control the deficit and control the debt and take it to the Senate and take it to the president, who has said was a precondition, I will not negotiate. Who says that really truly wants to move America forward as opposed to being captured by their partisan pride? Who says that? We're going to take a reasonable plan and we're going to negotiate in good faith. If he doesn't want to do something and Harry Reid doesn't want to do something, it's on them,
and
not the Congress.
Reasonable set of demands includes getting rid of Obamacare for a year. It means putting in the
It's not ready to go, Chris. It's not ready to go by the president's own admission.
Can I read your list? Can I read your list?
We're trying to help him. We're trying to help him do something
Why are you
right
a senator? By the way, why is a congressman from Gettysburg so interested in offshore oil development in the Gulf?
Because
that's
all
these
for
Southern
America,
guys want
Chris,
that. Why do you want
I'm tired of being tied to foreign and Middle East
so you're
oil.
into all the oil business. You're into the oil business situation here.
I'm into what's good for America. That's what I'm into.
What does that got to do with paying our debts? These are demands by the oil state Congress people. They insist they want the money before they go along with paying America's debts. And you're going along with that for Gettysburg? Why are you doing this?
Because it's the right thing for America. It's because the American citizens are demanding it. That's why.
Well, I looked at that list of 10 things. It looks like it's written by the oil industry, and I'm surprised that you're involved with such a caper.
I'm surprised that you read any of it, first of all, but maybe you didn't realize this. The American people voted for a Republican Congress.
What'd you just say? You're surprised I read it?
I'm surprised you read it. Yes, absolutely.
I'm surprised you read it. So I know what
you know that most Democrats, as a matter of fact, I'm surprised that any Democrats read the bill.
You know
Nancy
what you can
Pelosi
do?
said you got to
pass it. You know what you can do with that? You can be excused because you just accused me of not doing my job, and that's a big mistake here. Congressman, thank you for coming on. I mean it. I wish you hadn't made that last remark. I think it was a cheap shot. Scott Perry, it was cheap. Don't laugh. It wasn't cheap. It was really cheap.
Well, you've made some cheap shots at me,
no,
too.
No, I didn't. I was fair. You were in bed with the oil industry. Anyway, thank you. This is hardball.
I'm in bed with the oil industry again.
I'm looking at your votes.
Oh, that was awesome at the end, man. I want more of that Chris Matthews. Look, Chris Matthews, he has a lot of potential. And he's a guy who really, really loves politics, you could tell. Like, I think he's really up there with, when it comes to political commentators, like, he really looks forward to doing his job. And like I said, oftentimes does nothing but defend the Democrats. But every once in a while, he does something like this, and you're like, oh, Chris, where you been, man? He's like, no, here's why you're so in favor of the Keystone Pipeline, and here's why you've consistently voted with the oil companies. You're bought by them. Then they say, well, Obamacare's an ultra-left-wing policy. It was passed by the ultra-left-wing. You fucking fool. Could you read the history of the bill before you talk about it? Understand, the idea of Obamacare, the heart of the bill is the individual mandate. You know who came up with that idea? The Heritage Foundation. You know who they are? A right-wing think tank. Virtually all the Republicans in Congress in the 1990s were all in favor of the individual mandate. Why? Because it's the conservative response to a single-payer system or a public option. And the reason why it's conservative is because it forces people to take personal responsibility and buy their own health care on the private market, not government, private. That's capitalism. What happened, Republicans? I thought you loved capitalism.